brief overview of the usage of weak hadith on Fada'il al-A'mal. A very important question. To simplify things, there are to simplify, I said simplify, it's a longer discussion. There are two main madhabs of the people of knowledge. Number one, no weak hadith should be used or mentioned or quoted for Fada'il al-A'mal. There are enough authentic hadiths, sound hadiths, you don't have enough time for the other stuff. There's no need. And many of them say it's impermissible. The second method of the people of knowledge is that it is lawful to mention a weak hadith, to use a weak hadith, or to act upon a weak hadith with conditions. And from those conditions, أَنْ لَا يَشْتَدَّ ضَعْفُهُ, it cannot be severely weak. Any hadith that is severely weak on Fada'il al-A'mal, it cannot be used. Number two, أن يندرج تحت أصل عام أصل صحيح. It has to be generally sound. The theme, the meaning, the flavor of the hadith is generally sound. He who comes to the masjid, Allah will give him the reward of this life and the hereafter, so on and so forth. That's generally what? The virtue of the masjid. Going to the masjid, walking to the masjid. رِجَالٌ لَا تُلْهِيهِمْ تِجَارَةٌ وَلَا بَيْعٌ عَنْ ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ. That's in the Quran. Allah praises the men of the masjid. لَمَسْجِدٌ أُسِّسَ. How many verses that talk about the virtues of the what? إِنَّمَا يَعْمُرُ مَسَاجِدَ اللَّهِ مَنْ. So this da'if hadith that says, he who comes to the masjid sincerely for Allah, Allah will give him the best of this life, is generally what? It's under those general what? Sound meanings. Thirdly, أَنْ لَا يَعْتَقِدَ نِسْبَتُهُ إِلَى النَّبِيِّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ. You can't believe decisively that the Prophet said it for sure. And of course, a part of the question for it to be فَضَائِلُ الْأَعْمَالِ لَا يَكُونُ فِي الْأَقَائِدِ وَلَا فِي الْأَحْكَامِ. These are some conditions mentioned by some of the people of knowledge. So it's khilaf on that issue. So what does that mean, Hisham? If there's an imam in Windsor or this part of Canada, he came from Egypt, he quoted a hadith in a khutbah, later on we discovered that the hadith is weak, Sheikh Albani, we cannot go and talk and gossip and say bad things about that imam. You can't. You may disagree, that's fine. But he is clearly basing what he did off of what the people of knowledge have done, rather the majority. You may disagree, that's fine. But you can't say he's a stray, he's an innovator, he isn't to be taken from. That's a problem with the youth. Masala khilafiyya, you force your ijtihad or your opinion on them, and then you use harshness, you make a campaign against that imam. And that imam from Egypt, how much benefit does he have with them? How many fawaid does he have for the youth there? And there's no other masjid in your town or your city. You warn from him, that's a mushkilah. That's a what? That's a problem. I don't want to sit with him. I don't want to do the khutbah. That's fine. You're making a campaign against him is what? Total different story. I'm sure you guys are familiar with what I'm talking about. It has happened too many times. Last but not least, there's a difference between mentioning a da'if hadith and between acting upon it. Two different things. There's a difference between me saying it and me al-amal bihi. There's a difference between the hadith da'if. Many of the imam, they would say, إِذَا رُوِينَا فِي الْحَلَالِ وَالْحَرَامِ شَدَّدْنَا. Lawful and unlawful, we were strict. Raghaib, fadail, virtues, we were tasahilna. And if you really look at what the imams of the past did, even in the halal and haram, they mentioned what? ذكروا الأحاديث الضعيفة لكن بالأسانيد, with the chains. So every book of hadith isn't made for every person. There's some books that the scholars only wrote for tulab ilm. And there's some books that they wrote for imams like themselves. And there's some things that were for the everyday Muslim. So at the end of the day, there's a difference of opinion. If you're going to quote a da'if hadith, if you're going to quote a weak hadith, then make sure you mention that. There is a hadith that states, I never said it's sound. I never said Bukhari Muslim. I said there was a what? A hadith that states. Or I may even say there's a hadith which is a little weak, but the meaning is so and so. Mathalan. Also, there's a difference between weakness of the chain and weakness of the method. Ad-du'a'u mukhul ibadah. Dua is the bone marrow of worship, is the core of worship. Is that the most authentic version? Is the meaning sound or rejected? La shak fi dhalik. The bone, the middle of the bone, the marrow of the bone is what? Is dua. That's the core of worship. So the chain may be a little weak, however the meaning is clearly what? So there's tafasil, yani details. Who you're talking to, who's talking, what's the level of weakness, and what it's about, and how you clarify it. Clear? Wallahu ta'ala. Are you allowed to hope for the reward? In general, bi'idhnillah. You can't miss. If it's sound, there's difference of opinion. Sheikh Fulan said this, Imam Fulan. And at worst, there's general sincerity. And you're performing an act of worship which is already established in authentic texts. Bi'idhnillah ta'ala. However, my advice, as I just alluded, is that there are so many authentic hadiths that talk about the fada'il. Oftentimes you don't have enough time to deal with other stuff. Now listen carefully. Hafid ibn Rajab rahimahullah is an example. In his books, does he quote da'if hadiths? For sure. Hafid ibn Rajab, Imam, Hafiz, no doubt about that. He's well known. His aqeedah, his madhab, what he was about, well-known status. But is the da'if hadith the first thing he mentions in the chapter? No. He's going to quote the authentic, agreed upon stuff first. Rawa al-Bukhari wa Muslim, wa fi sahihayni, and then to add to that, to give you a complete picture, he's also going to mention وَرَوَى الْبَزَّارُ بِإِسْنَادٍ ضَعِيفٍ وَرَوَى التِّرْمِذِي بِسَنَدٍ فِيهِ مَقَامٍ. So there's a difference versus this is supplementary versus this being the forefront. Everyone understand this? Wallahu ta'ala. Khairan inshallah. Fadal. No problem. Fadal. If somebody wanted to study hadith further, is there an order of books? Yes and no. So first and foremost, regardless of the order of the books, is the type of books. Many people, they say, you want to study hadith, 40 hadith of Nawawi. That's right and that's wrong. 40 hadith of Nawawi is not about what? Mustalah. So that can't be the first book you study on? Mustalah. 40 hadith of Nawawi is not about ahkam. So it makes no sense for you to say that's the first thing that you study on hadith al-ahkam. Uloomul Quran. Al-Bayquniyyah. Principles, usul, qawaid. Your aqeedah, your iman, akhlaq, then it was going to be Nawawi's 40 hadith. So therefore, is there an order of the books? Yes, depending on the field. So mustalah is a set of books. Ahkam, hadith ahkam, there's an order and a set of books. Ilm al-Rijal, the science of Jarh wa Ta'deel, the narrators. As for a beginner, there's an order of the books. Sharh, explanation, there's an order of the books. So there is. So if you were asking about ilm al-mustalah, then I would say start off with at-tadhkirah of Ibn al-Mulaqqin, and or Bayquniyyah, and or Nukhbat al-Fikr. Either of the three you made one. Number one, la yadur. Bayquniyyah is easy because you can memorize it. It rhymes, but at-tadhkirah is easier to study because it isn't in poetry form. It's easier to read. It's clear speech. At-tadhkirah of Ibn al-Mulaqqin rahimahullah ta'ala is in English. There's a translation. I have a full review of that translation on my page for free. I've explained the book on HadithDisciple for free. And there's also a structured course with tests, with assignments on a Tadhkirah and HadithDisciple Academy, which will be coming soon, March soon. if you want to study tafkir properly, inshallah. So for argument's sake, Bayquniyyah first, tafkir second, nukhbat al-fikr 3. After you've studied those 3 mutun with the teacher successfully, or by yourself because you don't have a teacher, or just the audio or the videos, then you want to move on to a bigger book, such as Al-Muqidha by Al-Dhahabi, rahimahullah. And after successfully studying Al-Muqidha, you could move forward to Ikhtisar Uloomul Hadith of Al-Hafidh ibn Kathir. After Ikhtisar Uloomul Hadith of Al-Hafidh ibn Kathir, you want to jump into Al-Muqaddimah of Ibn al-Salah. Or you may choose to do Alfiyah al-Iraqi or Alfiyah al-Suyuti. Or a person may say, after you've studied those small beginner's book, do what Cortez did when he got to the New World. He burnt his boats. We aren't ever returning to Spain. We either conquer them or we die. So there's no more mutun. I did 3 mutuns, now it's time to jump into the science, the hands-on science. And actually read and study and reference the hadith and research the hadith. Because the beginner's book is only a tamheed, madkhal. Madkhal liman huwa, aw lima huwa, akbar minhu, aw ahammu minhu, awsa' minhu. The matan is nothing more than a madkhal. It's a footstool, stepping stone for the real actual study of the science. Appetizer is not your entree. It's not the main meal. You're not supposed to fill up on buffalo wings or mozzarella sticks. You're not supposed to fill up on the soup and the salad. It's only supposed to what? Get you ready for the bigger meal. This is a steakhouse. I'm here for steak, not for buffalo wings. Right? All dressed, right? Right or wrong? Tell you. More of the story is, there's a manhajiyah when it comes to studying books with teachers and without teachers. Alhamdulillah, I've explained all of these things over the years. You can find the videos. Other people have explained it on the tartib and the manhajiyah of mutun. Don't forget, last but not least, man hafidh al-mutun has al-funun. You study the mutun properly, you'll get the science. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that you make ibadah of the matan. You're not supposed to study Bayquniyyah for 10 years, for 5 years. You're not supposed to study Bayquniyyah 10 times. La. I read it, I studied it, memorized it, now what? Discard it. Because Bayquniyyah is only a madkhal. It's a ship to get you to your destination. Heed these words. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Fadda, Isaiah.
Yesterday, did I hear you correctly when you said that HD Academy is only in Arabic?
No, HD Academy isn't only in Arabic. There are classes, inshallah ta'ala, have courses for both languages, and it's predominantly for English-speaking people. Brothers and sisters who want to make the jump, but they aren't strong enough just yet. So it's going to be available for English, along with the traditional sources, the reference, the translation, so on and so forth. Wallahu ta'ala. خلاص إن شاء الله وإياكم.